Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1504 of our daily content grind. So, I'm supposed to be producing these Zeztz video reviews on Sundays, after the episodes air. It's been a busy week. I just got around to watching the episodes in full today. So, apologies for the wait. They will be on Sundays from now on, and we will be going 2 episodes at a time to talk entire story arcs. That way we can, instead of just me recapping episodes, we can kind of break down them, the episodes by section and talk about the entire thing and the entire impact and that sort of thing. It should be a lot cleaner. We're trying it out today. Let's find out. So, we are picking up on episodes 6 and 7. Which is all about a prison escape. And, okay, that you've already caught my attention. So, right away, we have a completely different scenario than what we have had in any of the past. Like, okay, it's all secret agent work, ultimately, protect the VIP bride. That's very much secret agent work. And this can be, too, as well, if you are rescuing certain types of prisoners. But, yeah, like, it presents us a very different type of dream. Baku cannot go and investigate this location in real life to find clues. And in fact, during this, we are told, like due to the way this dream is set up, you're probably not going to find any of the doors to their subconscious, meaning you're on your own. You just have to do the detective work yourself with no cheats. And then again, shows different possibilities that we can do with the storytelling in Zeztz, which makes it interesting. We're expanding the narrative. That's great to see. It gets better later on when you find out the nightmare is the entire prison, and they are stuck inside said nightmare the entire episodes. This is great. This is actually interesting. We can do things like this in this series because it is taking place in a dreamscape. Nothing needs to make sense, and that is the beautiful thing. What's great about this is like a lot of the interior sets, which you'll see here in a second. It's all real world places, but it's not like other like dreamscapes we've seen where they have to do like anything wild to it to make it seem like a dream. No, like the world itself kind of helps that out a lot. Now that said, in the real world, we're not getting what we had previously. Disasters aren't befalling places and people the way they were with previous nightmares. Instead, we had this ominous visual, this symbol appearing in the side of a rock quarry that happened to be a symbol that they found inside the nightmare itself. And it was all over said nightmare. It was the icon on the traps. It's the symbol that's going to be on the monsters we got to fight. It's all over the place. So yeah, like it's not all like, well, the real world is exploding. We have other methods, and it kind of makes you realize if this nightmare escapes into the real world, this could be a disaster. This could be like a genuine kaiju rampaging. We saw one nightmare escape, and it already caused a lot more nightmares to be born. What would this one do? It's a lot to take in. So, the setup here is that we have 2 potential dreamers and Nem, and this is what they believe at the time to be Nem's parents. That is what Baku has to go on. And hilariously, this makes him take things very seriously and get super suave and cool. Like he's undoing their chains and shackles just by like clicking them, just like snapping his fingers or just like rattling them and they just fall off. It's a great little visual. It's a great visual. Like he's not even trying. He is at this point just flaunting his dream powers, and it's hysterical. Now, said dream does get surreal with the traps, but again, he handles them easily because he's Baku. In a dream, he's going to look super cool and in charge at all times. That's just how his lucid dreaming works. And he's doing all of this because he thinks he's trying to impress Nem's family. It's just a role they're playing. Nem is just playing their child in this scenario. That's it. But that said, this does play into the actual mystery of the story because there's some subtlety going on here. This isn't just her announcing what role she's playing. She's actually, for the first time, covering something up and not being honest. See, what we find out very quickly here, when we start doing detective work in the real world, is that the man here is actually the president of Nem's talent agency, the one who discovered her in the first place. So why would Nem not say that in the dream? Why would she refer to this person as like her parent as the role they're playing for this dream? It's a weird loophole. It's a weird loophole before you get to like the main part of the story, but it's dots that you yourself get to start connecting. And she does get very uncomfortable when she's pressed about it. So yeah, like we're actually digging into Nem in this episode. We learn a few other things about Mr. President here, like the fact that he just got divorced from his wife. And here's a great thing. Here's the great thing about this. So we have our real world detectives who are bringing all this up. And Tetsuya is again doing his thing. Like it's just going to be his running gag to jump the gun and say he's solved the case, and then announce something that hasn't taken all the variables into effect. Like if he says he's solved the case and it's only the first of a 2-episode block, he's nowhere close. And on his first guess, no, he doesn't really have all of the pieces of the puzzle. But here's where I credit this show. Here's where I really like what this show has been doing with these characters in particular, like Tetsuya and Natsuka. They kept going. Even though he kind of like proclaimed, I've solved the case, they keep investigating. They actually find the ex-wife and start questioning her, and they start figuring out the rest of the puzzle. So that the second time that Tetsuya announces, I've solved the case, he's right. He's still missing a couple of important ingredients because they're things you could only find out in the dream world. But for most of the part, for like 90% of this, he actually gets it right. And to the point where his detective work actually informs Baku's perspective and his own secret agent work back in the dream world. This is something I really wasn't expecting. I almost expected this would be like an Inspector Gadget or Detective Conan situation where the real detective is just incompetent for the sake of laughs, and it's his young sidekick that is actually doing the real detective work and figuring out and saving the day. No, Tetsuya gets a win here because he actually figures out what's going on. Now, what's going on, we're going to get to later because there's a lot to that story. We're going to talk the action scenes for a bit. So even though the nightmare is the prison, we do get these chainsaw nightmares as well that basically act as the guards inside said prison. And they make for a decent little fight scene. They are the type of enemy that just has gigantic weapons stuck to their hands, and that's a little bit disappointing. Like, that's a little bit, I think played out and a little bit lazy in design, but it doesn't look bad. It doesn't look bad. I kind of like the overall look of the monster. In this one, we get 2 new capsules. There's no rhyme or reason or rules to the capsules, by the way. Baku just kind of decides whenever he wants to go over to the Gashapon machines and crank a couple more out. So he got machinery, which actually basically, it sounds cool because he gets what looks like a Mega Buster cuff around his arm. It sounds like you get to control machinery with it, but all he's really demonstrated doing is forming big claws to grab the monster with. At one point, he literally uses it like a claw game. It's a little bit of a letdown. Like, I hope this one has a little bit more power to it, a little bit more going on. But we also get to see the other one, which, oh, I can't remember what they called this one. Oh, I can't remember the name of this capsule offhand. Now, my notes have failed me. But essentially, he gets to split. Essentially, he gets to split into multiple forms. And one that sets up an inevitable situation of we're going to get to see all the Zeztz at the same time. But also, it may always makes for a cool visual when a character can do this, right? You know, it lets Zeztz handle mass numbers of enemies in a way. This also allows us to have two different things going on that interest me. Number one, we get to see how the capsums actually work when he transforms. So I was kind of under the assumption that the capsums would work akin to how a lot of other rider devices worked, where everything is a base form, and then like you have like almost like the wizard rings, right? So where you have rings that are like the main forms the rider can turn into, and then the rest of the rings are just effects that you can stack up on top of those. That's not how this works. No, it is every single capsum has its own henshin jingle, and they all are based off of one of Zetz's base forms. So like the two we see here are both based off of Stream, which is kind of interesting. So he has 4 base forms and then multiple modified forms that only those particular Zeztz forms can transform into. That's interesting. And it's also going to stretch out the lifespan of the individual forms. That's kind of cool to see. And I'm kind of excited to see. That makes me more excited to see which forms come up next and what we're going to do to augment them. The other thing I like seeing about things like this is we get to see power level here. So, yeah, so Zeztz destroys the prison basically by reaching the top and just smashing into its brain with a rider kick. Which, you know, I'll accept. I will accept. For those who do not know, over on Twitch, I VTube as a Kamen Rider-esque character. And people ask me, well, if he's a kaiju fighter, like, how does he deal with giant monsters? Does he grow? Does he have a Megazord? And I go, no, he's just strong enough to take them out. So thank you, Zeztz, for demonstrating what that looks like. So yeah, there's a little, little bug man just like jump kicks through a brain, and that's how the monster is destroyed. We're pretty much not going to speak of the prison after this, so I will say that, like, credit to Toei for managing to turn what really seems to be like a collection of parking garages and water treatment plants into a feasible prison for them to escape out of. There's a lot of visual mumbo jumbo to make it work, but hey, they're all just kind of dirty, flat, unpainted concrete areas, so it all kind of worked out. It all kind of worked. So, through all of this, as I said, we're learning more about Nem, and she's hiding something. So what she's hiding is the truth about her past and her present. What we find out is that Nem was actually an orphan. The president of this company actually discovered her. I don't know what he was doing. He was giving a grant. He was giving a grant to this orphanage. And he spots her and decides that girl's worth $1 million. Like I need to sign her right now. Made her a child model, made her a star, made her Nem, who everyone dreams about today. What got suppressed was that the fact that he and Nem were involved in an accident where a truck collided with the tour bus. And with Nem being so injured, she ended up in a coma. So what we're dealing with in the dreamscape is actually survivor's guilt, because he always like we'll get to in a bit. We'll get to in a bit. For her, it explains why Nem was so hesitant to talk about this before, because as of right now, her body's missing. So a few days after she was put in the hospital and went into a coma, her body vanished. So for 4 years, they have not known where Nem is, if she is still alive or not. And the whole thing of this was, let's keep it under wraps. Let's not tell the public, because Nem is such a figure that inspires so much hope and optimism. Like, if we tell the public that she's possibly dead, like, it'll just hurt people more. So we're going to cover all this up. So all the advertisements that you see for Nem right now have all been CGI or previously created material. And they even reference that in the show. So the truth here is, even Nem in the dream world does not know where she is in the real world, which kind of confirms my idea that she's like a dream existing person, like like Zero. This is not a Nem that is just Baku's imagination of Nem, his personal dream Nem, and all of them, or everyone's individual dream Nem. No, they're all the same Nem, and they are all linked back to the one in the real world who has to be alive because the dreamer has to be alive, right? So yeah, like, we found out something pretty huge here. And we also did find out, about the president and like what caused his nightmare in the first place. And I like that it didn't come from anything malicious. He wasn't after anything to be blown up or after any kind of revenge for the driver of the truck. He was going through survivor's guilt. He views Nem as a daughter, and he did not, he always in his head was imagining what would happen if he had died instead of Nem. So that's what the nightmare is designed to produce. A prison to keep Nem with him and keep her safe and protected, and give him the opportunity to sacrifice himself. That would be how the nightmare would win in this scenario. Didn't happen this time. Nightmare did not escape. But I do like showing that, again, just like we have this gigantic prison to show what we can do setting-wise and monster-wise in this series, we've also demonstrated that not every dream has to come from a place of wanting harm. This was a dream of regret, fear, feelings of failure, negatives for sure, but all personal, internal. That means we have so many more directions we could go. Like, that alone demonstrates how open this concept is, and really shows how every episode can be vastly different from each other. I really like what they've been demonstrating in this. Before we get to the last point and the last big reveal of the episodes, we do have to kind of discuss Minami a little bit. Minami is the one who identified the president after Baku brought a photo back from the dream. So that alone means she's going to be more involved. So she is a talent manager. I think it said she's a talent manager. She doesn't matter. She has an occupation that keeps her around the town, lets her find in a bunch of different places and know a bunch of different people. So she is kind of an informant right now, though she does not realize her brother is actually some weird secret agent. But that said, questions are going to arise now. Now we actually have to question this, because she is there through the entire interaction between Baku and the president, because he's announcing himself to the president as code number 7 right in front of his sister, and the president acknowledges that. They're like, yes, I did see you in my dream. You're a very different person there. And that's when he gets to come up. They talk. They discover the secret of Nem, which is kind of a huge cover-up thing to be suddenly let in on. I would expect at this point Minami has to have questions. Why did you need to know this? Why did you need to meet up with him? What is code number 7? Why did he know you from the dream? Why did he trust you with this? Like, it's a lot, right? Like, I don't think this can be swept under the rug. Like, if we get to the next episode and she's still just the doting little sister that's trying to keep her brother out of trouble, that really does feel like a backward step. That feels like a backward step. Like, if this show is well written, and so far it has been well written, I need to see her question that and potentially become a bigger involvement. I've been expressing how I don't want her to just be an obstacle for the sake of having an obstacle for him to have in the real world. I would much prefer her to be in on this. And it seems like she might be after this episode. But the big thing we have to talk about is Nox. Nox here, more than any other episode, made his presence known to Zeztz. They met face to face for the first time. Nox not only put himself, very adversarial against Zeztz, demonstrates his power in the dreams over Zeztz, and even mentions, "Did you think you were the only one who's mastered lucid dreaming?" So that's how Nox is so effective in the dream world as well. And he's talking about a price to Zetz's power, which is where we cut back to the president after the nightmare has been defeated. That purple butterfly that floats out after the nightmare has been destroyed. Always kind of wondered about that. They seem to be gathering. They're gathering wherever Nox is in the real world with Nem. He has her body. Now, it's not clear if he stole the body away from the hospital himself. It's not clear what his actual intention with her body is, but it's implied that she's actually somehow producing the nightmares. Like, she is the monster maker, even if she is not aware of it. But also, this feels really early for this. So I've had people tell me that, like, people have issues saying, like, Zeztz is kind of a slow series. I'm like, what are you talking about? The series just started. He doesn't even have all of it. Like, I feel like the people saying it like that are viewing it in the way of, like, we only have 2 main forms for a writer so far. In a lot of series, he would have already debuted, like, all 4 of his primary forms by now. But you can't view it in the sense of, like, the combat level and the form changes. You have to view it in the sense of the story pacing. And the story pacing here is, like, this is a mystery they really could have milked for half of the series at least. And they just kind of tore open Pandora's box in episode 7. It kind of makes me realize this is a mystery to solve before the middle of the series. And then we find out why Nox took her. We find, or if he even was the one who took her, what his intentions with her have been, why she is supposedly creating the dreams. And then you move on to, like, a bigger threat from there. Like, you link that mystery into a bigger mystery. So it feels like some of this should be solved mid-season. And it makes me think back to that shot from the opening where they all just raid the Power Ranger set, or the Super Sentai set, and just stand amongst all the giant buildings. Like, it's like they're in this dream where they're all huge. And Nox steps in with them. Not against them, not like staring opposite of them, but staring in the same direction. He's off in the back. But if that shot's going to be in the intro the entire series, it definitely feels as though that's, like, an indication that he might not be a villain for the entire series. And given the fact that the resolution with Nem may not just be as simple as he turns into a monster and Zeztz destroys him. It's not going to be. Genuinely makes me super curious where they're going with this one. So, that is Zeztz 6 and 7. Oh my god. I will admit, part of why I'm a little bit slow on these episodes was just because, like, I felt my interest kind of waning. Like, more than that, I had interest in other things popping up that was taking priority, so my priority getting back to Zeztz was not there. Oh boy. Now it's there. Oh my god. There's some huge lore dumped in this one. I'm super curious where they go from here. I'm curious about the sister character now, which you knew I was writing off from this point. So, there you go. Those are the thoughts. Those are the reviews. Zeztz is still really, really good. Go check it out. It's completely free on YouTube. And hey, they're uploading individual episodes now. You can go watch at your leisure. It's great. So, thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.
Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.